December Death's Holiday. Her name is a constant echo in the world of Deltarune. We hear her in Noelle's memories, we see her on hidden web pages, and we feel her as a major reason why the plot moves forward in the game, to find her. Just as the song title, Find Her, says. And absolutely anyone who has played Deltarune has asked themselves, what happened to her? Did she simply disappear without a trace? Well, we already know that last part isn't true. The game's code, if you dig deep enough, reveals a set of dialogues for each chapter, known as the Goner Code, from someone lost in absolute darkness. On top of that, we have the dialogue about the Cursed Sister and Dragon Blazers 2, a game based on the prophecy itself, the implication of Asgore and his mysterious dismissal as police chief, and the most shocking evidence of all, the direct connection between Des and the most feared figure in Deltarune, the Roaring Knight himself. But what does all this lead to? This story isn't about a simple disappearance, but about a character who was literally erased from her own reality, deleted from the video game. And to understand what truly happened to her with all the clues we have so far, we must start by asking what really happened to Des. Chapter 1. The Missing Girl. It's not known exactly how long Des has been missing, but we have some reference points. Tenna gives us a glimpse into the past, when the Holidays and the Dreamers would watch TV together. In this memory, Chris and Noelle are very young, while Asriel and Des appear to be about the same age as the current main characters. It's right around this time that Des disappears and everything begins to change. In another scene, Noelle's silhouette is nearly identical to the one shown when Birdley confesses he only won the spelling bee because she got flustered and couldn't spell the word December. This isn't a coincidence. It's a known phenomenon called the freeze response to a traumatic trigger. It wasn't just a simple case of nerves, it was her nervous system overloading, her mind disconnected to protect itself from the emotion stirred up by her sister's name, confirming that Des was already gone by then, leaving a deep wound in Noelle. Some suggest she's dead, a theory most now dismiss, but it's important to understand why it came up. Any mention of Des and hometown elicits the same reaction from everyone. They avoid the topic, or if it's brought up, they quickly change the subject out of respect. This leads us to Asgore. Before Undyne, he and Rudy were in charge of keeping the peace in hometown. A newspaper clipping on the police station's bulletin board states that Asgore was dismissed from the force, though Chris stops reading before we learn why, and the text claims there's no need to read anymore. According to the business Manticore, Asgore lost everything after this event, leaving the community to suspect he was heavily involved in Des's disappearance. This spawned the meme of him and his pickup truck being responsible for ending Des's life. It's almost certainly not what happened. He'd be in prison if it were, but the image is morbidly amusing. Jokes aside, it's clear Asgore has something to do with all of this. He was dismissed, which implies that whatever happened didn't result in a death or a clear violation of the law. Perhaps he broke a police code of conduct that forced his removal. Or maybe it was Carol using her power as mayor who had him dismissed. It could have been for incompetence, or perhaps because she needed someone outside the system. If that's not enough to cast doubt on her being dead, consider that Noelle has a search history full of queries about her sister. She knows Des is missing and constantly searches online, hoping someone might post a sign of her. Furthermore, on the website deltarune.com/Des, clicking on Des's guitar plays the song findher.og. The message is clear. Des is lost and more than one person is trying to find her. Interestingly, every chapter has an unused script that, when found, reveals the monologue of a lost person, with each entry appearing to continue from the last.
Where am I? Hello? Anyone? Is anybody out there? Someone, anyone, can anyone hear me? It's dark. It's so dark here. Someone, anyone, if you can hear me, say something, please.
A person doesn't know where they are and can't find anyone. There is only darkness, and no one answers your cries for help.
I guess not. To be honest, I'm not even sure if I can hear myself. It's so quiet here. And yet, sometimes, I swear I hear something. Something like scratching.
But in her solitude, she hears something. A sound that breaks the silence. A scratching. What is it? A monster? No. The answer is much stranger and more personal. That scratching? It's us. It's the sound of players digging through the game files, searching for answers. Des is lost so deep in the code that the only sign she has of the outside world is our own curiosity. We aren't just observing her tragedy. Without realizing it, we've become her only company.
What is this place, anyway? How did I get here? As if I haven't asked that question a billion times already. I always did have that nightmare. Walking into the darkness with the light shining from the doorway. Then the door slams behind me and everything goes black. Is this that nightmare? Or was everything else a dream?
This message gives us a clue about what happened before she got lost. She mentions a recurring nightmare that seems to describe how she ended up in the darkness, leaving her to wonder if her current reality is the nightmare or if her entire life was just a dream.
I'm starting to lose track of the time. Has it been days? Hours? If someone told me it's been years, I might believe them. Before, the sun came up, and so many wonderful things happened that made time meaningful. Things like breakfast or late night TV. In this place, I don't eat or drink anymore. I can't tell if I'm awake or dreaming. I can't even tell if I'm dead or alive. It's just nothing but pitch black silence, except for the noise. The scratching noise I sometimes hear. This sounds crazy, but even though no one can hear me, when I hear that noise, I feel like someone's listening. Anyone, if you're there, thank you.
The final message confirms that such prolonged isolation is completely affecting her cognition. She's losing her sense of time without anything to mark its passing. She states she doesn't need to eat, doesn't know if she's awake or asleep, and certainly not if she's alive or dead. But in this loneliness, the scratching noise has become a comfort, making her feel heard and grateful to whoever's making it. Many believe this monologue belongs to Des herself, who has literally vanished from the code. Much like when you delete a sprite, but remnants of its code remain. One piece of evidence supporting this is on the Spam Tin sweepstakes page. Clicking a particular ad that reads, "Have you seen him?" redirects you to deltarune.com/IC. There, Noelle tells a bizarre, horror-tinged story about a leftover pizza box that supposedly came to life and stared at her. In response, her sister Des, Azriel, and Chris tried to kill it by burning and burying it. Noelle invites readers who enjoy these sightings to check out her sister's blog. However, the link leads to a 404 error page. Curiously, this is different from other non-existent pages, which always show the annoying dog. Des wasn't just erased from Hometown. She disappeared from the code, and even the internet itself. This makes it clear Des vanished, and ever since, things have changed for everyone. Chapter 2, Sister's Curse. We know how important the prophecy is to all of Deltarune. Chapter 4 shows how everything we've seen aligns with it. The prophecy has been repeated in various forms, and Dragon Blazers is one of these adaptations. It's here, in a seemingly trivial comment from Susie, that the game screams the truth right in our faces. It's like when your sister gets cursed in Dragon Blazers 2. Even if her stats suck, she's still your party member. No, this is foreshadowing. The keyword is cursed. Toby Fox isn't just describing a game mechanic, he's giving us the exact diagnosis of what happened to Des. She isn't lost, and she isn't dead. She is trapped by a curse that erased her from existence. In Chapter 3, it's possible to enter a secret room called Gotcha Room Unknown. By inserting exactly 1,225 points into the gotcha machine, the team vanishes, leaving Chris alone. The background music cuts out abruptly, the room takes on a bluish hue, and the southern exit becomes inaccessible. The only option is to enter the machine itself. Inside the room, findher.og plays, and there is only one object to interact with, a smaller blue gachapon machine. Interacting with it yields the following text: "You used the machine. The capsule came out. Inside was something hard, like lacquer. It was a small, dark triangle. You tried to take it, but it slipped through your hand and you couldn't find it anymore." The audio cuts off, the text box speed slows down, and a final message appears. You couldn't find your hand. After this interaction, the screen fades to black and Chris returns to the rank B room. It's unclear what this triangle is. Some claim it's one of Des' guitar picks. Chris's hand disappeared because they touched an object belonging to Des. Something erased from existence, which then began to erase them as well. Others connect the triangle to the black shard, suggesting it's part of the Knight's blade. However, Chris's hand never disappears when they touch that. But Des' most significant intervention with the group occurs in chapter 4. When trying to go back after the final part of the prophecy is broken, the narration indicates that after Chris reached out, another hand pressed against theirs and pushed them back. The code is set to play one of the sounds Des' guitar makes when Susie plays it at Noelle's house, and guitar hit 03 at 0% volume. Do you understand what this means? Des isn't passive in her prison. She is aware. She is watching, and from the abyss of the code, she is still protecting those she left behind. How did she get lost? To understand that, we have to consider a new possibility. What if IC really was alive? There is, after all, mention of a demon that Chris and Caddy tried to summon. Something is etched into the prophecy itself. After leaving the egg room, you reach a peculiar hall where the prophecy depicts a house between two trees and the word roots. At the end of the hall, an Argonite character says, "I heard something in between, something in between. It was mix-up where children would forest a tale. Lost of the grove, pointed followed, the poor children." Another prophecy found in chapter 4 reads, "They'll see the tail of hell take Grell." This confirms the presence of a tailed being linked to hell, a demon. We know Des loved horror movies and even had a blog for paranormal sightings. What if Azriel, Des, and Chris confronted this demon, but it was smarter than them and trapped Des in the darkness, cursing her very existence? To understand how it all ended, we need to recreate. Chapter 3, The Vanish. To understand why it was Des who fell, we first have to understand who she was. She wasn't just Noelle's sister. She was a force of nature, a musical prodigy, a born leader, and an explorer with a fascination for the paranormal. She used her mother's influence to turn the town into her personal playground, perfectly suited for her adventurous spirit, stockpiling army rations, playing paintball, and even ice skating. Her relationship with Azriel was very close. His t-shirt is in her room, along with many other items that connect them. Among the things stored in a box, alongside a couple of burnt-out lighters and Azriel's retainer, are old mint tins with unique leaves inside, suggesting they had other kinds of trips. Curiously, her closet door bears a strong resemblance to Papyrus's bedroom door in Undertale. There are many hints that Death entered the Dark World at some point. She promises to take Noelle to a place very similar to Cyberworld. In her closet, we see the same type of chair Relsay uses to talk about the Dark Worlds. The text on her handmade band posters says they were for concerts that may or may not have happened. Even the town's shelter seems to house a dark world. When the Roaring Night enters, we see the same particles that emanate from these worlds spilling out of the door. After Chris and Caddy tried to summon a demon, Des may have attempted to destroy it. It hid, and when they returned to the shelter's dark world, it manipulated Des from the shadows until it buried her in darkness, literally erasing her existence from the code. Azriel and Chris might have called Asgore and Rudy for help, who entered the dark world and faced the demon. After a fierce battle in which Rudy was mortally wounded, Asgore did something that warranted his dismissal from the force. Perhaps he abandoned the fight with the demon to save Rudy, or maybe he made a deal with it. This event ended his career, his marriage, and his credibility in town. Yet despite Carol's clear dislike for him, she gave him a flower shop and a job doing tasks around her house. Why? The reason is simple. Carol believes what Asgore saw. She has been devising a way to find Des. Chapter 4, Carol's Plan. This brings us to a crucial moment in Chapter 4 where it's possible to find Asgore working at the holiday house. His dialogue is very interesting. It seems like a normal job where he considers taking a break to eat, but then he says it's no time for a break and that he must focus more than ever, claiming he has to go look again. Later, in Carol's room, Asgore speaks while looking at a board full of notes and connections, a plan they have been developing for a long time. He says,
"We're almost there, aren't we, old friend? This time for sure, Tori will finally see what really happened. That I just wanted to protect everyone. And this time, she'll have to believe me. They all will. Then, we'll all be a happy family again, won't we?" It sure is beautiful, isn't it? This black shard.
It's here, in the holiday house, that the facade crumbles. We thought Asgore was just a pathetic ex-husband trying to win Toriel back with flowers. We were wrong. This monologue changes everything. He's not a gardener, he's a conspirator. This time, Tori will finally see what really happened. This isn't a lament, it's the declaration of a plan about to come to fruition. A secret plan hatched with Carol to prove a truth that no one believed and to protect everyone from a threat only they know about. However, their method involves a black shard, something connected to the Roaring Night. A very plausible interpretation is that the Roaring Night is Des, or something like her. Many details align. Its reindeer-like antlers, the fact it doesn't seem to wear pants, and Des has no pants in her closet, or that it can take the form of a baseball, which she has tons of in her room. Some believe that, like Gerson, the Roaring Night is Des's remains poured over her favorite baseball. However, something doesn't fit. As we've established, Des is still alive. If it's not her, then who is it? The answer leads directly to her mother, Carol, because the Roaring Night isn't Des. It's a puppet created by a desperate mother, manipulated by the same demon that took her daughter. She may have tried something similar to what Alvin did with his late father. In Deltarune, when a monster dies, they turn to dust, and tradition dictates that their remains are spread on their most cherished object. Des's most prized possession, a baseball, is the foundation of the Roaring Night. Carol reopened the dark fountain in the shelter, imbuing the object with characteristics of her daughter, but also of herself, like her taste for katanas. But the ball doesn't contain Des's remains. Instead, something else has given it life, a force capable of materializing it in both the dark world and the light world. There are a couple of possibilities. The demon could be controlling the Roaring Night, using Des's prized object as a vessel. Upon entering the dark fountains, it would take the form of a knight with her features, but without life. The demon possessed it, boosting its power, which explains why its weapon is formed from a dark shard, which many link to the Shadow Mantle due to their shared connection to the dark element. This is a plausible option, but when considering Chris's relationship with the Roaring Knight, who refuses to attack them with full power, vows to knight them, and seems to understand them with just a few glances, it seems unlikely. Most believe this demon has already appeared, Enar, the wielder of the Shadow Mantle and the Sword Route, a being who has watched everything Chris does from the shadows. His dialogue with Chris is very different from his dialogue with the Roaring Knight, and why would he give Chris armor that provides so many advantages to defeat himself? This leads us to a strange theory. What if Chris is the Roaring Knight? We know Chris is intimately connected to Carol's and Asgare's plan, hiding crucial details from the player by closing their eyes or stopping their reading. It even seems Chris made a promise, which is why they are letting the player manipulate them even when it forces them to do things they dislike. Another important clue is Carol's obsession with red hearts. Somehow she knows the power of a human soul. But most interesting is Noelle's story about Chris using one of Carol's heart pillows to pretend to rip their own heart out and chase her. Noelle might have seen it as a joke, but what if Chris was actually removing their soul just as they have done repeatedly in front of the player? That would explain the birdcage for the player's soul in their room and the strange bloodstain on the floor. This is critically important. It implies Chris had a soul before the players, one that belonged to them. Chris may have given their soul to Des's object, creating the Roaring Knight, an unstable vessel, empowered by darkness, capable of materializing in the light world and creating dark fountains at will. Chris understands the Roaring Knight so well because it is them, their authentic soul. But why would they go to such a radical extreme? The answer lies in a promise and an all-consuming guilt, because the origin of this catastrophe has a name: Chris. Their game of summoning demons with Caddy stopped being a game, and the consequences shattered their world. This isn't just a plan to find Des, it's penance. Chris carries the weight of having ruined everything, and to fix it, they are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, erase themselves, surrendering their body and their will, so that someone else can right their wrong. Chapter 5. Loose ends. How can the Roaring Knight possess elements of darkness? Why try to fulfill the prophecy of the Roaring? The reason, once again, is Enar. The demon has led Carol to believe that the only way to get Des back is to fulfill the Deltarune prophecy. If we recall, the prophecy Rousey tells ends with the Lightners lost in an endless night, a darkness just like the one Des ended up in. But the true Deltarune prophecy must have a good ending, one that involves a great sacrifice, but ultimately ends the eternal night, allowing everyone to return to the light world. The prophecy claims this is the only way to save the world, but this ending displeases Susie so much that she tears up the prophecy before we can see it, vowing that neither she nor Chris will let that happen. However, a corrupted version of the Deltarune exists, one that features demonic wings instead of angelic ones. Enar gave them access to his dark power, enhancing the Roaring Night vessel, and from the shadows he has been corrupting key characters to ensure that his prophecy is the one that comes to pass. Just look at his corrupted Deltarune. There is a fourth triangle approaching the angel figure, whose wings are now demonic. This fourth triangle is the Roaring Night, who, after causing the roaring, will become part of the demon's immense power. The other major loose end is, why did they need Chris to be soulless? The main reason is the player. At the very beginning, in the darkness, something is glad to have connected with the player's soul. It transports you to a place with an abstract background and asks you to create a vessel, only to discard it and place you inside Chris, stating that no one can choose who they are in this world. Chris needed to be soulless so the player's soul could be placed inside them. They needed to be a free vessel for the plan to find death to work. If the player had gotten their own creation, which would have had no will of its own, the mystery of death and other secrets Chris hides would have been discovered long ago. Carol is trying to control the prophecy as much as she can, and Chris is ensuring it happens. It's even possible the Roaring Night can materialize in the light world because Chris's soul is using the player's vessel, and Des's baseball, instead of becoming the knight itself, became its armor and sword. In the end, the players are the only ones capable of finding Des, the only ones who can enter the code and find her messages, the only ones who can find clues to her whereabouts in ARGs like the Spamton sweepstakes. You are the banished angel who can fulfill their will, saving the world and returning to the light world, or damning everyone to eternal darkness. Des's disappearance is the catalyst that has generated all this chaos. A mayor who should be concerned with the well-being of her town endangers it to save her daughter. An ex-police chief and ex-husband stops caring for everyone to obsess over a way to fix his mistakes. A mischievous kid who summons demons sacrifices their own will to try and save her. And the demon pulls the strings, taking advantage of the chaos that a single moment of darkness unleashed in the heart of a small town. Chapter 6, the final piece. And right here, with all the pieces on the table, this could be the end, but one final question remains. A question so obvious it's easy to overlook, yet its answer is the darkest key of all. If Des's consciousness was trapped in the code, what happened to her body? To understand this, we have to look at the only other character who has suffered a similar fate, Birdley. In the weird route, the Snow Grace spell doesn't kill him. It does something much worse. It freezes him, shatters him. When the fountain is sealed, everyone wakes up as if from a dream, except for him. His body in the light world lies in a hospital, unconscious, but his mind remains trapped in that icy digital prison. They're connected. Changing the temperature of his room and acting the physical world makes him feel better in his comatose state. His body is here, but his mind is somewhere else. Des suffered the same fate, but in an infinitely crueler way. When she was trapped in the darkness, her body in the light world didn't die. It was simply emptied. It became a shell, a vessel devoid of consciousness. And herein lies the paradox that turned her into a ghost that can never be found. Remember the fundamental rule: a dark world is shaped by the will and imagination of its creator. If Des herself created the dark world she was trapped in, then when the fountain was sealed, the key to recreating that exact world was lost along with her consciousness. It became an unsolvable loop, a ghost in a machine that no longer exists. It doesn't matter how many dark fountains they open in the same place, they can never recreate the original prison because the mind of the jailer is the prisoner herself. And suddenly, the demon's plan becomes terrifyingly clear. What do you get when you combine an unsolvable paradox, a mother willing to burn the world down for her daughter, and an empty, soulless body? You get the perfect weapon. You get the Knight. The demon's plan was never just to manipulate Carol into having Chris open fountains. It was far more perverse. It convinced her that the only way to find us was to use her own body as a beacon. And how do you control an empty body? You offer it a soul. The soul that Chris, consumed by guilt, was willing to give. Thus, the Knight we've seen isn't Des. It's Des's shell animated by Chris's soul and directed by a desperate mother, all while the demon pulls the strings. They open fountain after fountain in a futile search because Carol believes she's looking for her daughter, but they will never find her. And those distortions in the Knight's form within the Dark Worlds aren't just a glitch. They're the evidence of a fragmented consciousness, a body fighting against a soul that isn't its own, all as the demon's darkness slowly corrupts it, preparing it to bring about the roaring. And so the only hope that remains is the prophecy, the Deltarune, the arrival of an angel whose heaven will bring peace, or the end of everything. This is why Ralsei, the self-proclaimed Prince of Darkness, is a key piece of the puzzle. After all, it's no mere coincidence that his name is a perfect anagram of Azrael, and that he is his spitting image, the very same Azrael who conveniently went off to college right when everything fell apart. Des's disappearance didn't just create a knight, it also created a prince. But we'll save that for another theory, one where we'll analyze what really happened to Azrael, the boy who had it all, after his best friend vanished because of a disaster that he and his brother unleashed.